Now let's dive into a pricing question. Let's assume that you're the product manager on Spotify in charge of determining the pricing for Spotify. Currently, Spotify charges $9.99 per month. Let's say there's a proposal to increase the price to $11.99. What would you do? Would you want to move forward with this? How would you think about this situation?
Sure, yeah. Just give me 1 minute. Can I just sketch some things out?
Of course.
All right. So I sketched out a little bit of a table or a tree here. So as we're thinking about this, I think it's first useful to think about Spotify's bigger goal, right? There's obviously a goal for why this proposal came out. I suspect very strongly that it is to increase profitability. The idea is if you increase the price a little bit, then if you can hang on to enough subscribers, then you can increase your net profitability. So let's keep profit in mind as our our North Star for this question. And so to analyze the profitability, I'll break it down into revenue and cost because profit is revenue minus cost. I'm going to say that cost is going to be the same before and after this proposal. Fixed costs are obviously the same; they're fixed. And then I think the variable cost of hosting a Spotify user is probably going to be about the same, whether or not they stay as free or they're paid or they go from paid to free. I think the variable cost is going to be about the same. So for this, I'm going to leave out the whole cost thing, assume it's the same. And variable costs are low, fixed cost is exogenous, so to speak. Now let's look at revenue. So revenue is going to be the annual revenue per paying user, or ARPU. And then that times the number of subscribers, the number of users that we have paying. So before the change, it's, we're pulling in $10 a month for however many million users. That's $120 a year.
As with most PM interview questions, Neil first establishes a goal, increasing profitability. Although measuring the goal seems simple, Neil breaks it down by scientifically drawing out all of the cost and revenue variables at play. He then walks us through his logic by using a powerful tree diagram. Diagrams like this are essential for quantitative questions like this. They let you show your work to the interviewer and ensure you don't make simple math errors, which could otherwise be a problem when you're doing mental math like this. What's more is that structured whiteboarding like this makes life a lot easier for your interviewer. It helps them take notes and better record all of the ideas and calculations that went into your response, which will be especially useful for hiring managers to see when they're reviewing your interview feedback. By the way, Neil stumbled upon a very useful insight, which you'll see him point out later in the interview. Keep your eyes peeled for it.
So with this proposal, you'd be pulling in $12 a month times 12, 144 a year. The question, of course, is how many subscribers do you lose as a result of it? I think the whole thing really just hinges on whatever this number is. So just thinking about my own experience with a lot of these subscription products, a lot of them cluster around $10 a month. I think Netflix is about the same amount. Amazon Prime averages out about that. I think Apple Play Music and movies is 10 or less. So, increasing it to 12 would certainly, I think, turn off a large part of the user base. However, I think a lot of folks who use Spotify are not very price sensitive. And I think 10 versus 12, I think a lot of those folks who are more price sensitive wouldn't really care. They'd keep on paying for it. And also, I'll call out that there's definite switching costs, right? To leaving Spotify and going to say Apple Music. And I say this because Spotify knows a lot about your tastes, your interests. You've created playlists. You've probably added friends on the platform. You have all those Discover playlists that were pre-made for you. I have a buddy who he has all of his Spotify playlists from every single week since 2014 listed out. It's some tradition of his. And of course, if you ditch Spotify, you lose all of those things. So, I think that the number of people who would leave is actually somewhat low because of these switching costs, because of all the information you've put in that you can't take over. And also just the fact that a lot of folks are not going to be that price sensitive. $2 a month, I think to most people doesn't seem like that much. So, I'm going to guess that, let's say 30% of paying customers leave if we raise the price to $12 from 10. So, if you had 100 million before, you'll have 70 million after.
The first thing this question is testing is to see if the candidate can make informed judgment calls on the price elasticity of Spotify. To arrive at this educated guess, Neil called out other competitors in the space, such as Apple Music, who charges $9.99 or less. Given that there are comparable substitutes, increasing the price would turn off the segment of price-sensitive users. On the other hand, he made a very astute point that the switching costs in music streaming products are actually quite high. Switching to a competitor means losing what could be years of playlists and song recommendations based on an ever-improving algorithm that has been trained on your music listening preferences. So a meaningful percentage of users would actually be very likely to bite the bullet in face of a price increase. Neil kept both of these factors in mind when coming up with this estimate of user churn if the price were to increase. In asking this question, the interviewer isn't looking for Neil to calculate the exact price elasticity of Spotify. That's impossible with the information given. What this question is really trying to assess is if the candidate can navigate an ambiguous situation and make informed decisions with limited data. The interviewer isn't testing whether you landed on the correct number, but rather the approach you use to arrive at that number.
So the question, of course, just boils down to what is the revenue annually going to be before and after. So before, you're pulling in $10 a month times 12 months times 100% of people. Afterwards, you're pulling in 12 a month times 12 months times 70% of people. I'm going to leave out the whole month to year things. That extra times 12 kind of messes things up. But before, you're pulling in, let's say, 10 times whatever, 10 times 100%. After, you're pulling in 12 times 70 or 84. So what's going on is that before, if you would be pulling in 100% of your revenue, then afterwards you'll be pulling in just 84% of what you would have before. Which is to say that this proposal would decrease our revenue by a pretty good chunk, and as a result, would also hurt our profitability by a pretty good chunk as well. So, as a result, just from this analysis, assuming my numbers about the percent of people who would leave are accurate, this is something I would not want to do. I think the profitability story, the revenue story, just don't make sense because we lose more people than money we would gain if we did this.
Neil does a great job plugging numbers into his table. Based on the assumptions he made, he concluded that if Spotify raised its subscription price by 20% and there was a corresponding 30% drop in users, then Spotify's overall revenue would actually drop by 16%, and thus the strategy isn't advisable. Ultimately, this question was digging to see if Neil's analytical skills could back up his hypothesis, and Neil did an excellent job. 9 out of 10 candidates would just end their answer here, but pay very careful attention to what Neil does next. He thinks back to the initial goal of the potential price increase, which was to increase profitability. He then thinks of an incredibly clever way to achieve that goal without necessarily having to charge customers more.
As I thought about this, I was thinking about how I pay for Spotify. And I remember how on Amazon, I don't know if you've ever done this, but on Amazon, when you're trying to pay for Prime or stuff, you can't actually do it through the app. You have to go on the website to do it. They'll actually pop open a web view just for that. And I think the reason for that is, I think Apple and Google both charge you about 30%, you being the app developer. They take 30% of any revenue you get from an in-app purchase. So that's why Amazon kicks you out of the app to the web view, because that's the only way they can get around that 30% tax, so to speak. So what's actually going on here is that when we're charging people $10 a month, we're only actually getting $7 a month. And when we are charging $12 a month, we're only really going to pull in $8.40 a month. Now, that doesn't change the overall recommendation, right? Because everything just goes down proportionally. But I will call out that I think my numbers originally were off by 30%. And now that I think about it, right? Amazon had boosted its profitability without raising prices by doing this web view trick. And going back to what we're thinking for Spotify, why can't we just do the same thing, right? If we want to improve profitability, one way is to raise price, sure. But why can't we just, take people out of the app flow and have them go to the web? We can charge the exact same amount, but this time, instead of getting $7 a person, we get $10 a person per month by doing this. So it'd be an easy way to, achieve our goal without doing this, price raise thing in particular. So that's what I would recommend. is actually just keeping the price the same, but taking off, not paying through the app and going to the web view. I think some people might, they might be price insensitive enough, or they might like the convenience of paying through the app. Because I know getting kicked out to the website does take like 5-10 minutes, to put in all your payment details again. So, I'm willing to bet that there are some people who would rather pay through the app, even if we made the price a little bit higher, than going to the website. So what we could do is we could maybe even offer users a choice, right? We could say, pay on the app, it'll be, $12, or you can go to the web view and we'll charge you just $10, right? And in this way, we can kind of segment the folks who really care about convenience. We'll make sure we don't lose them, but the folks who, and I think this is most people, care about the price would have an outlet so that we could, improve profitability while not raising the price on them. Actually, I think the price you'd want for the people who pay in the app would be like 10 divided by 0.7 is that, I think, like $14, right? So you'd have to, basically you would offer $14 a month for paying in the app, and that 14 times 0.7 is 9.8, so that's almost $10. So we as a company are indifferent to which one you choose, but for the customer, it's a $4 a month difference, and the question is, are you willing to pay that for the convenience? I think like 95% of people would say this, but the people who don't, we don't want to lose them just because it's, a small bit of extra friction in there. So we'll do that. And then, and I know people would be kind of annoyed if we were to, raise the sticker price to 14 from 10. I think for this, transparency really matters. So we should tell the customers, right? Hey, we don't want to raise the price on you, but did you know Google and Apple are the gatekeepers of these ecosystems, and they charge 30% of whatever we make. So, we don't like the idea of raising the price. We don't want to raise the price on you, but because of this, right, in order for us to keep, innovating and building products that help you, et cetera, we have to do this. But, if you're willing to, do a little bit more work to help us help you, please go on the website and just pay us directly through that. That way you can be sure that every penny you pay us goes toward making Spotify a better product. It's not going to these gatekeepers. So, I think if we can show the user why we're doing this and why this is needed, and show, hey, we don't want to raise the price, go on the website, do it there. If you really want to pay through the app, we had to raise the price because of this tax, basically. We're sorry about it, but that's the way it has to be. But please help us out, help yourself out by going on the website. So that's what I recommend. I think that would make more sense than just a straight up price increase that didn't have any of this additional flexibility.
Awesome. Thank you for breaking that down. I followed your logic, and I think that definitely helps boost profitability while not just directly increasing the amount that your average customer is paying. So that's extremely clever. Is there anything that you didn't cover in this explanation, or if you had a chance to redo this or more time, that you would change?
Yeah, I'll look at the notes again. Yeah, on my profitability calculation, I just assumed the costs were going to be the exact same. I think there's a little bit more nuance to that. The fixed costs are going to be the same, obviously. We still got to pay our employees. I think the variable costs might actually differ. And I say this because Spotify, I think, has to pay artists a royalty for every time the song gets played, right? It's probably some small fraction of a cent, but it adds up. And I suspect that people who pay for Spotify Premium are actually going to listen to more songs than people who, have the free version. And as a result, you're going to have to pay more royalties for a paid user than you are for a free user. It's probably in the order of a couple cents or dollars a year. I don't think it's anywhere near the, extra $100, $144 you get per year by having them. So I don't think it would change the calculus of my original suggestion. I think the total costs might be a little bit higher if you had the old price, because you'd probably have more paid subscribers and fewer free subscribers. Ergo, you'd have more money in royalties. Versus if you were to raise the price to $12 a month for everybody, then you'd have a mix where there's more free, fewer paid. Therefore, your royalties go down. But again, I think that difference is like minuscule. It's nowhere near the loss in revenue we would see. So, I would add that nuance to the calculation, but it really doesn't change, anything else in our analysis.
Great. Thank you for walking me through that. Thank you. So when answering this question, Neil started out by stating his goal, which was to maximize profit, and then walked through his competitors, looked at other products in the space, and thought through what the user drop-off would be if he increased the price from roughly $10 to $12. He estimated that it was going to be a 30% drop-off, and he ran the numbers, and he saw that this wasn't something that Spotify should do. And so at this point, he could have just stopped there and said, no, we shouldn't do it. But the reason why Neil's answer was so powerful is because he suggested an alternative strategy. He looked at a personal experience he had where when he was buying Amazon Prime, he didn't buy it on mobile, he actually bought it on the website because Amazon redirects users to web because the Apple App Store and Google Play Store take a 30% cut of all transactions on their mobile platforms. And so by doing this and using that same sort of strategy, he then tied it into his Spotify answer. He said that for people who are price sensitive, he would redirect them to the web where they could get the same price for Spotify, pay $10 a month. But for users who want that convenience, a small sliver of users, say 5% of your user base, you could increase the price to say $12 and make that incremental revenue so that you still boost your profitability. And so in this whole case, for those users who are going to drop off, that 30% of users who are going to drop off, they don't drop off anymore because they still have an alternative where they can go to web and get that, lock in that same cheap price. And so effectively in this new strategy, Neil has addressed his goal of maximizing profitability and increasing it while still not dropping off any users and not increasing the price for those who are price sensitive. And so by tying in these nuggets, whenever you have a question like this, if you are answering no to a strategy, you can always add another piece to it and say no and or no but, and add a story that you've seen in a pricing strategy that other companies have used, think about how it would work here, and add that nugget to make your answer more powerful for that situation.
You might be wondering where all the voiceover commentary, analysis, and feedback in this interview lesson came from. Well, this is one of over 70 such lessons we conducted, and in each, we had a rotating panel of 4 calibrated PM interviewers from top companies to analyze, dissect, and critique the interviewer's answer. And then we inserted these insights at key moments during the interview. In Product Alliance's Hacking the PM interview course, you'll get access to all 70+ interview lessons, complete with whiteboard graphics and expert commentary where you saw here. You'll also get step-by-step tutorials to teach you exactly how to ace each of the 17 types of PM interview questions. Unlike our competitors, we do not offer interview courses for every job under the sun, from software engineering to management consulting. We do one thing and one thing only, creating the best and the highest quality, most up-to-date PM interview resources on the planet. Remember that this video is just the tip of the iceberg. Check out the full Hacking the PM interview course to get every single resource you need to land your dream product job.